What is the most extreme thing you've done to win an argument? Not me, but my high school chemistry teacher. He had been arguing for days that blue blood isn't actually blue. That's just how your veins look through your skin because the blood is deoxygenated. Our class clown David, however, persisted. Blue blood is blue. So one day Mr. N went into the science supply closet and came back out with a vacuum and a syringe. Pulled up his sleeve and drew blood in front of the whole class into a vacuum to prove that your blue blood is, in fact, just dark red. David never said it was blue again. It's teachers with commitments like this that made my school life awesome. I made a post on Facebook that my sister didn't like. She's in her 50s. She made fun of me in a comment on the post, so I commented back that she doesn't know what she's talking about. My sister does not like to be told off. She thinks she is better than everyone and that no one has a right to speak to her if they disagree. She is against gays and she says all black people are prejudiced against white people because they are jealous. I put up with a lot of stupid ideas just to have her in my life. Well, once I commented back to her on my Facebook page. She lost it, sent me a nasty message, then put me on block. I have a few pages on Facebook for other things and she went to all those pages and told me off as well. So I told Facebook she was dead. They memorialized her account within 24 hours and she could no longer sign in. You took your dead to me, a bit literally there, fair play. I've read that Benjamin Franklin did something like this to a rival almanac publisher. He predicted the date of the man's death, only for his death date to pass without notice. To his rival's smug mockery. However, every year after that, Franklin would publish a memorial to the guy in his Poor Richard's almanac. And eventually many people came to be convinced that the rival was really dead and that the publisher, claiming to be him, was really an imposter, leading to reduced sales and eventually the collapse of his business. When the dude finally did die, Franklin published a final memorial, congratulating the rival's friends and employees for finally coming to terms with his death. Don't know if this counts. My brother got into an argument with me, lost, then peed on the door handle of my car to assert his dominance. Your brother is an alpha. Edit. I'm not gonna delete this, but I'm erasing it. There are too many identifying details in my story. I'll put it back when the thread isn't so hot. So frustrating when you have to have the perfect response in order to be taken seriously. Not me, but a friend of mine. My friend 24M is an absolute angel. He is straight, important later, and pretty much just looks like a teddy bear. No threatening aura whatsoever. Now to my story. Getting drunk in bad sides of the town is one of our not-so-smart pastime activities. Usually nothing ever happens. We're all kinda friendly with each other, but this night some other guys were in front of our favorite bar as well. We didn't know them. It was fine. You still make some conversation, just that my friend sometimes tends to forget that not everybody is cool with certain jokes. I honestly don't even remember what he said to that over 6 feet tall dude with a biker jacket and grizzly beard. He was probably just joke flirting as he always did. And that dude didn't like that at all. He slurred something about being careful with what my friend is saying, and in the next second he already grabbed him by the collar. And my friend kissed, "Hi monsieur." Yeah, he literally just gave that angry, maybe homophobic dude a peck on the lips and looked at him like a puppy awaiting a snack. None of us knew how to react. We just kinda stared, and I guess I was sure we'd have to get my friend to a hospital in the next few minutes. But alas, big burly dude let go of him, looking confused, and just left. It was the weirdest shit I ever watched. He awoke something in that man that day. I read every Twilight book because you can't criticize it if you haven't read it. They're sucky books. But I have earned my opinion and can back it up with facts now. Said 50 Shades of Grey was a mindless piece of shit that never should have been filmed. My friend's girlfriend went off at me to not shit on movies I haven't watched. Got out, got in my car, drove to my place, downloaded the waste of megabytes, watched the entire thing, got in my car again, drove to their place, got in and looked her in the eyes. I just watched 50 Shades. And? She asked. It's a mindless piece of shit that never should have been filmed. My friend found it hilarious. Her not so much. So he got told off too. I wasted couple of hours of my life so I could shit on a movie freely. So honestly, no real winners in that situation. I watched the first 10 minutes and then told my wife I was done. I did that too. I like to think I've spared others the horror of reading them. Anyone who's expressed interest in them gets an earful about Breaking Dawn, which sends them screaming away from the whole series. Insisted the lost item wasn't where my mum said it was. Ran upstairs before she could. Obviously found it where she said it was, and so I did the only reasonable thing I could and hid it. Waited a good week to find it again. This is too relatable. Landlord said I was smoking cigarettes in the apartment to try and evict me. Bought a couple dozen cotton and piss tests and gave the judge the pictures of all the tests. The case was dismissed with prejudice and the landlord was given a formal warning for lying. I still ended up moving out because the lease was month to month, but I still won a small battle against that piece of shit. You may have given a future tenant an evidence trail that could help them in a legal case against the landlord. So it did some good beyond helping you win an argument. Not me, but a high school friend on Thanksgiving got into an argument with his uncle of a polar opposite political vantage point. Started as just shouting and nothing really to write home about. But it began escalating to the point where he called my friend just an idealistic kid who doesn't know shit about the real world, which prompted my friend to yell, "Real funny coming from a man with fake hair." Quote. Room goes silent and his uncle is fuming. He rips off his toupee and throws it against the wall. Then proceeds to scream, "You happy now?" Before continuing the argument. I just laughed so loud I scared my kids. This is fucking hilarious. It was my dad, and it was to win a bet. After a snowstorm, the snow on the farm had been plowed up into a big pile. My dad and cousin had made a $1 bet on how long it would take to melt. They had a date picked, and my cousin had after that date. As the date was approaching, it was obvious it wasn't gonna be completely melted. So my dad got on the tractor with the snowplow and spread it out so it would melt faster. For $1. I'm sure the bragging rights were worth way more. Not me, but when I was 13, this guy that hated me spent 2 hours writing a diss track about how much he hated me. He never spent that much time on anything else for school. It didn't really start or end an argument though. I mostly thought it was kinda funny that he spent so much time on it. Maybe just wanted to show his talent XD. I mean, it wasn't any good. It basically called me gay every 3 lines and that was it. Sounds like somebody had a crush on you. Diss tracks are just guys writing poems about each other. This one time, the President of the United States made fun of me for wanting to run for office. It was brutal. Right in front of everybody at the correspondence dinner. It was bigly rude. I became president right after him. Undid a lot of the things he worked hard to accomplish too. Just to stick it to him. When I was 18, I worked at a restaurant. The manager kept me working in the bar. Then, after 3 months, made me work as a waiter in the restaurant. I wasn't told any of the procedures. Like, does this meal come with an extra bit or how to work the washer? But he insisted I should know because I'd been there 3 months. Even though I'd working in a completely different area. Anyway, on this night the dude that owned the place was in. The manager yelled at me to take something out on the back. While I was out on the back, and alone, I decided to fake a limp as though I'd had an injury. When I fake limped back into the restaurant, the owner called me over and asked if I was alright. I said, yes, it hurts, but I'm trying to keep up with everything. This is my first night on the floor and I'm not familiar with all the procedures. I'll try harder. The owner then got angry with the manager because it looked terrible that one of the waiters was limping around and that he needed to look after the staff better. I went home early with a full night's pay. Obviously I didn't work there much longer. Probably the pettiest thing I've ever done. But that manager was really quite out of line. I thought, sounds like an owner that legit cares, especially the full night's pay. I was driving back from London with a wife and we were on the M25. For those that don't know, the M25 is a large motorway that goes around the perimeter of London, like a giant roundabout with London in the middle. And my wife thought as we're on the A12 heading towards Essex, so as we're driving along she sees me signaling to go into the lane signposted for Chelmsford. We needed to go that way as we live in Essex. And she said, "Why are you coming off at Chelmsford?" I explained that if we didn't we'd be miles away from home. She argued with me and refused to believe we were on the M25, so I stayed on it. Note, it was 7 p.m. We had spent the day shopping and I had a car full of IKEA furniture in the back. We're driving along and suddenly she starts seeing signposts for Watford. She's like, "Why are there signposts for Watford? That's in Hertfordshire. That's miles from home." I was like, "Well, you wouldn't let me come off at Chelmsford, so we're now going to have to go right around the M25 to get back home." She started effing and jeffing but apologized, so I turned off at Harlow, which is in between Chelmsford and Watford. I was probably a 30-mile detour, but it was worth it. Edit. Spelling. Greater than. She started effing and jeffing. Never heard that term before. Is it a common English phrase? Quite common. Sometimes people say effing and blinding. Basically it means to show frustration in the form of swearing aloud. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.